My name is Neva Cole, and at 30 years old, my sister faked Grandpa's health, stole his inheritance, and used lies to keep me away, until the truth was exposed in court and shattered her world. I never imagined I'd be the woman publishing one of these. Yet, here I am. Let's just say that my family managed to make greed into a full-time career, and I was the only one who didn't participate. What began as a way to aid the family quickly devolved into falsehoods, fake documents, and a will that changed everything. I walked away once, but when they crossed the line again, I resolved to complete what they began, this time the correct way. If you have ever felt betrayed by the people who should have been your biggest supporters, let me know where you are watching from. Madison, my 31-year-old sister, represented the family's future, and I was a supporting character who existed to make her seem nice. She could burn toast and yet be considered clever. I could fix the dishwasher, and I was somehow bragging. When I got older and started working, the guilt trips started. My parents used this phrase for the entire family. It sounded noble until I understood it meant my salary was for their benefit. Neva, your sister is still finding her way. Can you assist her with the rent? Neva, we are short this month. Can you cover the bills? Neva, we are arranging a family trip to Miami, so you can't come, but you'll help, right? I went along with it for a while, mainly out of habit. That is what occurs when you are raised to believe that you must earn affection. But one night when my father told me I owed them for raising me, something inside me simply shut down. I did not shout. I did not argue. I just looked at him and said, "You're correct. I owe you nothing now." Then I packed up, moved my work to another branch out of state, and vanished from their life. Cutting them off was not retaliation. It was about survival. My grandparents, Henry and Evelyn Cole, were the only people who gave a damn about me. I spent the most of my childhood summers at their property. Grandpa was a retired engineer who felt that with patience and duct tape, everything could be mended. He had a workshop behind the barn that resembled a crazy scientist's garage, half tools, half pandemonium. But he dubbed it the Henry Cole Innovation Center, as if it were NASA's backup lab. For an elderly man with a toolbox, the projects were wild. Solar-powered irrigation pumps constructed from scrap metal, handmade soil moisture sensors, and a Frankenstein contraption that transformed agricultural waste into fertilizer pellets. He did not worry about money. He cared about concepts that would make people's life simpler. As a youngster, I'd sit on a stool next to him and doodle ideas on scrap paper while he described everything in clear English. "People think farming is luck," he'd add, tightening bolts with his large, worn hands. "It's just engineering with dirt." I was fascinated. I started carrying my own small notebooks, charting rainfall, designing pump designs, and asking silly questions that he always replied as if they were brilliant. Those summers gave me more problem-solving skills than any degree could. One night, I recall sitting outside the workshop. The sky was clear, and the air smelled like hay and engine oil. Grandpa, wiping oil off his hands, continued, "One day this will all be yours. You'll make it bigger, smarter, and better." I assumed he was joking. I was 16 and had no idea he meant it literally. When I reached my mid-20s, work took over. I grew busy, traveled around a lot, and life became that pattern in which you blink and 6 years had passed. I continued to contact the ranch from time to time, but the phone number eventually stopped functioning. They had moved the ranch line, and I had no idea. I suspected they had removed the landline. I texted my mom and asked for Grandma's new phone number. 4 days later, she responded with a reply that may have been created by an automated system. "They are now in a care home. They do not want guests. Instead of dwelling on the past, you should focus on your own life. They're also upset with you because you abandoned the family. There are no images or addresses, just that." I tried sending letters, tiny presents, and even asking old neighbors whether they had heard anything. Nothing came back. Every dead end made me feel a bit stupider for trying. I'd imagine Grandpa sitting at that workbench discussing something about gears or sunshine and wonder if he assumed I'd disappeared. Months stretched into years, and I finally stopped asking. It was not giving up. It was self-defense. You can only pound on a closed door so many times until you realize it isn't yours to unlock. Then, one afternoon, while I was wrapping up an assignment at work, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Normally, I ignore those, but something compelled me to answer. "Is this Neva Cole?" a man's voice inquired. "Yeah." I said wearily. I'm phoning about Henry Cole. I'm sad to inform you that your grandfather passed away last week. I said nothing. I just sat there, gazing at the wall. The man started babbling about arrangements, a reading, and some paperwork I needed to sign. But my mind went blank. My initial thought was not sadness. It was fury, not at Grandpa, but at my parents. Because if what that lawyer said was correct, it meant they had lied about everything. They told me he was in a home, that he didn't want to see me, and that I was the one who left them. Now he was gone, and I never had the opportunity to tell him the truth. The man closed the conversation by giving me an address that I was all too familiar with, the ranch. This is where I used to spend entire summers making garbage machines with the one guy who ever believed in me. For the first time in years, I was returning home. The trip to the ranch seemed longer than it used to. The ranch looked largely the same. I parked, waited for a few seconds, and tried to be ready for whatever was waiting inside. When the door opened, I was not greeted with warmth. This was Grandma's voice. "So, you finally showed up." Her tone was harsher than I expected. She appeared older, thinner, and sharper all at once. The same gray eyes, but this time they were carrying something heavy behind them. "Hi, Grandma," I responded with a little grin. "I came as soon as I heard." She crossed her arms. "You didn't come when he was alive. That stings." "I tried." I said gently. I called. I sent an SMS. I even mailed letters. No one ever told me what was going on. Her eyes narrowed. "Do not lie to me, Neva. Henry calls you every week, each week, and you never responded." This threw me off guard. "He called me." She turned and entered the living room without waiting for a response. I followed her. Everything inside looked the same. Same images, same furnishings, yet the atmosphere felt different. Heavy. She approached the ancient phone table and took out a little spiral notebook, its corners crumpled and yellowed. "This," she added as she turned the pages, "is the number he dialed every time until the day he couldn't anymore." I snatched it from her. The handwriting was unmistakably Grandpa's, sloppy yet confident. But the number was not mine, not even close. I gazed at it for a long moment. "This isn't my number," I said. "It never was." Her face faltered for the first time. "What? I've had the same phone number since high school," I responded, bringing out my phone to show her. "Look, I even texted Mom asking for your contact information. She informed me that you were both in a care facility and did not want visitors." Grandma's mouth moved slightly, as if she wanted to say something, but couldn't. She slid into the recliner, grasping the edge of the notepad as if it were confirmation of something that no longer made sense. "They told us you changed your number. She eventually said that you said you didn't want to be bothered, that you were ashamed." I laughed, not because it was humorous, but because it was too absurd to comprehend. Ashamed of whom? "You and Grandpa were the only ones to ever believe in me." Her gaze flew to the window, caught somewhere between amazement and rage. "Henry called you from that phone once a week, sometimes twice. When you didn't respond, he'd sit on the porch and remark, 'Maybe you were too busy. Perhaps it was a good thing.' I instructed him to come when he was ready. I massaged my cheek. He died thinking I didn't care." She didn't respond. For a few minutes, stillness spoke for itself. Neither of us moved. I just stood there gazing at the notebook as if it had the entire truth. Everything fell into place in between the bogus number and the fake tale about the care facility. My parents did not simply lie to me. They lied to both parties. They created a wall between us so cleanly that we each assumed the other did it. Grandma eventually glanced up, her voice calm. "Who told you about the will reading?" "The attorney. He called me directly." "Good," she murmured, putting the notepad down. "Then you'll be here when they show up." I frowned. "Who are they?" "Your parents," she replied bluntly, "and Madison." The sound of her name alone caused my jaw to stiffen. "Are they coming here?" "They were going to come anyway," she explained. "But now I want them here. Every single one of them." I watched her approach the phone and pick it up. Her palm trembled slightly as she dialed the phone, but her voice remained solid. "It's me," she said when someone answered. "Yes, tomorrow at noon." "Bring Madison." She stopped. "No, I am not asking. You will come." She hung up and stared at me. "They think they're coming for the will reading," she murmured. But they're coming for something else, too. I raised an eyebrow. Are you planning anything? Not planning, she responded calmly, finishing what they started. I didn't inquire what she meant. I did not need to. Whatever was about to happen, I could tell it was going to burn years of falsehoods to the ground. For the first time since I went through that door, I caught a glimpse of the old grandma, the one who used to stand behind Grandpa in that workshop, obstinate and keen. I nodded. All right, I said gently. Let's end this right. She didn't grin, but something about her countenance relaxed somewhat. He would have wanted you here. Tomorrow was not only a will reading. Payback day has arrived. I got up early before the sun even reached the windows. Grandma was already in the kitchen brewing coffee as if she hadn't slept either. She seemed different today, colder, sharper, and more focused. Sleep? I asked. I didn't try, she said, pouring coffee into 3 glasses. We've got a lot to get through before they show up. When I was 10, Grandpa and I sat at the same table and worked on arithmetic problems. No small chat, just the facts. They lied for years, Grandma said. They told us you were ashamed of us, that you didn't want to be tied to farm people. I nodded slowly. They told me you were both too unwell to have guests. You said you didn't want to see me. Her jaw stiffened. Your granddad quit eating right about then. He kept repeating, she'll come around. She just needs time. I slumped back in my chair. They are expert liars. They probably had a tale prepared for each query. They did, she answered. They told everyone you fled to pursue money. You stated that you were embarrassed by your grandfather's little workshop. I laughed short and dry. Yeah, because God forbid anyone think I admired the only man in this family who actually worked for something. Her gaze softened. I believed them for a while, she told me. Not because I wanted to, because they made it sound so certain. I did not blame her. Manipulation was my parents' first language. By lunchtime, the driveway was crunching with tires. I peered out the window and noticed the identical automobile they used to drive to family meals I hadn't been invited to. Madison was the first to walk out, wearing fancy sunglasses, bright red heels, and a perpetual expression of gratitude to the world. My parents followed, Dad still in his nice casual clothes, and Mom seeming to be modest. Let them in, Grandma replied, her voice composed but laden. The door opened, and the air altered immediately. My mother's phony grin looked to be scripted. Neva, she whispered, her voice sweet enough to ruin teeth. You really came? Yeah, I said bluntly. Miracle, correct? Dad offered me a courteous nod. Good to see you, daughter. Can't say the same, I said. Madison did not bother faking. Wow, you look average, she observed, glancing up and down. Guess city life didn't make you rich after all, I grinned. Guess family life didn't make you decent. Her jaw twitched, but she did not react. They strode into the living room as if they owned it. Mom sat down first, crossing her legs. I'm glad you're here, Neva. Today is crucial. We'll finally have some closure. Closure? I repeated. Is this what we call greed now? Dad disregarded it. You see, your grandfather's inheritance is tricky. We have been managing things carefully. Madison will, of course, receive her fair portion. I looked at him. Her share is what exactly? He leaned back as if explaining something to a kid. About $12 million, according to the last draft he gave me some years ago. We will manage the rest. You have your own life, right? You can create something for yourself. There it was, the family slogan. Take everything, leave nothing, and explain it with a grin. Grandma remained silent throughout, watching like a referee who had already chosen who would be ejected from the game. Madison leaned forwards, arrogant. You shouldn't be here, Neva. You made your decision when you ran away. Grandpa was disappointed, you know. Funny, I remarked. I heard he spent his final days contacting a bogus number to attempt to reach me. Who gave him the number again? The hush that ensued was piercing. Mom's grin cracked first. Neva, you're being dramatic. No, I said, cutting her off. You're being predictable. Dad cleared his throat. Let us keep polite. The lawyer will handle everything once he comes. Oh, I'm sure he will, Grandma remarked abruptly, her voice cutting through the tension. Everyone turned to face her. Despite her age, she rose up carefully and straight. Mr. Bennett will be here shortly. You'll all be here too. Madison frowned. Why? The will is already straightforward. Grandma smiled for the first time that day. We'll see about that. They were perplexed, but I noticed the gleam in her eyes, the same one Grandpa used to get just before proving everyone wrong. They went outdoors to cool down, and Madison gave me one final look. Don't think showing up changes anything, she retorted. I wouldn't dream of it, I said. You're doing a great job ruining things without me. Grandma sighed softly and looked at me. You handled that well. I've had practice, I explained. She sat back down, looking sleepy again. They think today is about money, she said softly. It's about exposure, I muttered. She offered a little nod. Your grandfather would be proud of you. I stood by the window, watching their automobile go down the street. The ranch seemed quiet again, but not lonely. It was the type that occurs before a storm. Today, I spoke quietly. We finished this. A knock came on the door. Grandma did not flinch. She just gave me a glance that indicated it is time. I opened it to see Mr. Bennett, the family lawyer, dressed in a black suit and clutching a briefcase. He'd been handling Grandpa's business for decades, and he wasn't one to waste words or time. Inside, the living room was already set up. My parents were on the couch, Madison browsing through her phone like she didn't want to know what she had just acquired. Mom made her typical false worry expression. Dad had the serene, confident expression he always had before a business triumph. Good afternoon, Mr. Bennett stated. Thanks for coming. Let us get started. He opened his briefcase, took out a hefty document, and set it on the table. The sound of the lock clicking shut rang across the room as a warning. As stated in the last will and testament of Henry Cole, his voice started. His voice sounded calm and professional, the type of tone that does not sway under pressure. To my beloved wife, Evelyn Cole, I leave our family home and a lifetime financial provision for her comfort and care. Grandma gave a little nod. She was already aware of that portion. Mr. Bennett said, To my granddaughter, Madison Cole, I leave. Madison leaned forward, smiled, and vibrated in her seat. The Pine Hollow cabin, as further detailed in my accompanying letter, executed alongside this will and incorporated by reference as part of it. Her grin slipped somewhat, but she didn't realize it yet. And to my granddaughter, Neva Cole, everyone's gaze was on me. I leave the Henry Cole Innovation Center, including all equipment, property, intellectual rights, and any ongoing projects funded under my sponsorship. The air thickened. Madison's eyebrows furrowed. Mom blinked. Dad's jaw clenched slightly as he maintained his corporate poker look. Mr. Bennett then took out a sealed envelope from the folder with yellowed edges and Grandpa's handwriting on the front to be read after the will. He added that the letter was written and attested on the same day as the will. Therefore, it was a legal cautil. This, he informed me, was left under strict instruction to be read aloud to everyone present. He gently opened it, unfolding the paper. The quiet was so intense that I could hear the wind striking the windows. To my family, if you're hearing this, it means I'm gone, and there are things I need to say that I couldn't while I was alive. Mom moved uneasily. Madison rolled her eyes as if it were a nuisance. I'm aware of the lies, the phone number, rumors about care homes, and humiliation, all of it. I know Neva attempted to contact me. I know who stopped her. Mom's face became pale at this point. You assumed I'd die without knowing, but I'm not as simple to deceive as you imagined. I've spent my life preaching honesty and hard work, and I refuse to let greed obliterate that. So, I rewrote my will. Mr. Bennett looked up briefly before continuing to read. Neva Cole now owns the remainder of my estate, excluding Evelyn's home and the Pine Hollow cabin. She is the only one who understands what it takes to construct anything from the ground up. Let her carry it on, Madison's voice crackled. What? That cannot be true. Aside from Evelyn, Madison will receive the cabin in Pine Hollow. It's little. It is old, but it is honest. Consider it a reminder of how much greed costs. When the letter concluded, the quiet seemed nearly violent. Then Madison burst. This is insane. He would not do that. You, she pointed to me. You manipulated him in some way. I did not move. Yeah, I must have done that while living 3 states away. Mom slapped her palm upon the table. Stop it, Neva. You've already set the family against each other. Is this what you intended to shame us? I returned her. Look, you've embarrassed yourself. All I did was show up. Dad tried to intervene, his voice low and calm. Let us be grown-ups here. This can be settled reasonably. Divide the assets equitably. You do not need everything, Neva. Be smart about it. I leaned back with arms crossed. Being clever would have entailed not fabricating phone numbers and lying to your dying father. I'm just cleaning up the mess. Grandma eventually stood. Her voice was not loud, but it had weight. Enough. Everyone froze. I sat here and listened to you twist the truth for years, she told me. Henry eventually saw through it, and now I do as well. You lied to me. You lied to him and used Madison as a tool. Madison's face flushed hot. Grandma, you don't understand. I understand perfectly, Grandma interjected. You mistook manipulation for love. I simply regret that Henry left you anything at all. Mom's lips shook, but wrath overcame guilt. You can't talk to us like that. I can, Grandma said confidently. And I will. You are not welcome at this house. Not now, not ever. Don't anticipate a dime from my will either. That did it. Mom's phony dignity was broken. She stepped up and said something about legal action. Dad followed, attempting to save what little pride he had left. Madison stormed out last, her shoes clacking on the floor like gunshots. The door slammed. The sound lasted, then faded into silence. Grandma sat back down, breathing deeply. Well, she eventually said, that's done. I breathed for the first time in what felt like all day. Are you okay? She nodded. Better than I've been in years. Outside, I saw their automobile disappear down the road exactly as previously. Only this time, it did not hurt. For the first time in my life, their departure represented serenity. It lasted around 5 days. Then Mr. Bennett phoned. His voice was firm, but with that cautious tone that attorneys employ when they are about to deliver terrible news. Neva, he explained, your parents launched a legal challenge. They are contesting the will. I expected it. I explained what I didn't expect was the angle. They say your grandfather was not mentally healthy when he signed it. They supplied medical records with diagnoses of schizophrenia, dementia, and cognitive decline, all dated 8 months before his death. I tightened my grasp on the phone. That is impossible. He was smart as always. Grandma says he was still developing solar devices in his workshop last year. I know, Mr. Bennett said. However, the documents appear plausible. We'll have to show they're false. The calm I'd gained had evaporated. That night, Grandma and I sat at the dining table, bundles of documents strewn out between us. The worry had rested on her shoulders like a weight she had previously carried. They'll destroy themselves doing this, she remarked calmly. They already have, I said. Now they're just trying to drag us down too. The next day, Grandma decided to summon them to reason, she stated. I was not optimistic. I sat alongside her when she phoned Dad's number on speakerphone. Hello? His tone was curt, as if this were business. Thomas, Grandma said, I saw what you filed. This is low, even for you, Mother, he stated calmly. We're just protecting the family legacy. Henry wasn't thinking clearly last year. You remarked yourself, your memory has been going too. We can't rely on that will. Grandma froze. What have you just said? Do you forget things? Mom's voice joined in. She must have been on speaker as well. You once told me that you couldn't find your reading glasses for 3 days. We are not assaulting you. We are worried. That's not memory loss, Grandma answered, trembling. That's life, Dad sighed heavily. We're trying to accomplish this gently. You and Neva may prevent humiliation by agreeing to split things fairly. I cut in. You mean give everything back to Madison? Dad did not skip a beat. You're overreacting. Grandma abruptly stopped the call. Her hands trembled slightly as she lowered her phone. They're trying to make me doubt myself, she said quietly. They've been doing that for years, I said. This time, we don't let them win. The following morning, Mr. Bennett arrived with copies of the faked reports. They seemed official, stamped, signed, and even had a forged neurologist's signature. If I hadn't known any better, I would have believed them. They went all in, he remarked, placing the folder on the table. Everything was fake, including hospital letterhead and doctor's notes. If we can't disprove it, the estate transfer could take months or cost us everything, I mumbled. That night, I was unable to sleep. Around midnight, I took a flashlight and went to Grandpa's office. The workshop smelled the same: wood polish, oil, dust, and old papers. His desk was still the way he liked it, with blueprints arranged on the left and mechanical pencils neatly lined up on the right. I began opening drawers, receipts, patents, and notebooks filled with designs. Nothing medical. Then I spotted the lockable file cabinet beneath the workstation. The keys were still hanging on a nail beside the window. Grandpa is a classic figure. Inside, folders were labeled by year. I selected the one labeled 2025 and began flicking through it. Halfway through, I discovered it, a sealed package bearing a hospital emblem and Grandpa's name. When I opened it, I froze. Inside were the actual medical documents signed by Dr. Whitaker, the same doctor who had treated Grandpa for years. The publications featured cognitive test results from barely 3 months before his death. Each line stated, "Patient alert, mentally sound, no cognitive impairment." I laughed, part relief, half astonishment. "You beautiful old man," I said. Grandpa had kept everything. The next morning, I scanned each page and created 5 backups: cloud, flash drive, and physical printouts. I was not taking risks. When I showed them to Mr. Bennett, his reaction said volumes. "This is gold. The hospital stamp and signature are all verified." "Good," I responded, "because they're not going to stop." Grandma appeared stronger again. "Henry used to declare that paper beats talk every time. Looks like he was correct." "Yeah," I said, "and this time we're going to make them eat their own paperwork." 2 days later, Mr. Bennett filed a counterclaim, attaching the actual records. Within hours, the court sought proof from the hospital. The confirmation came back quickly. My parents' reports were faked with digitally changed signatures. Mr. Bennett grinned when he called me. "They're cornered now. When the fraud report is submitted, it's finished." "Good," I said. "Let them finally face the mirror they built." I turned over to see Grandma seated in Grandpa's old rocker, the sun shining through the window behind her. For weeks, I'd watched her overcome with uncertainty. She appeared to be back in control. "They almost got me," she said gently. "Almost doesn't count," I said. "They underestimated you and Grandpa." She offered a faint, pleased smile. "And you?" That night, I returned the original documents to the same cabinet, locked it, and hung the key where Grandpa used to keep it. For the first time, I realized why he had kept everything. He was skeptical of discussion. He believed proof, and so did I. By the end of the week, Mr. Bennett had launched a comprehensive civil complaint against my parents for fraud and document forgery. He did not sugarcoat it. "We're not settling quietly this time," he told me. "They crossed a line that can't be talked away." The court went faster than I anticipated. The proof was too strong to ignore. Grandpa's original medical papers, digital timestamps, and the forged reports my parents had filed. The hospital promptly confirmed that the documents they utilized were not simply changed. They were completely contrived. Even the alleged doctor's signature belonged to someone who had retired 7 years before the dates listed. When Mom and Dad received the notice, they appeared in court looking like ghosts of their former selves. Gone were the costly clothing and arrogant swagger. Madison, who generally dresses like she's strolling a red carpet, arrived in simple jeans and an ill-fitting coat. The judge did not waste time. He reviewed the facts, glanced at their attorney, and asked a single question. "Do your clients deny falsifying medical records?" Their attorney hesitated. Mom attempted to intervene, saying something about misunderstanding, but the judge cut her off quickly. "This is not a family argument. This is forgery." After a brief hearing, the judge announced that he would make a written decision the same day. By that afternoon, the order had been issued. The fabricated reports were found false, and the challenge against Grandpa's will was dropped indefinitely. The judge ordered that they pay all court expenses and legal fees, levied fines for filing fake documents, and sent the forgery to the county prosecutor for review. Madison started crying outside the courthouse. Dad stood next to her, looking at the concrete. Mom attempted to appear collected, but as she turned to face me, her voice trembled. "You didn't have to humiliate us like this," she stated gently. "I kept my voice quiet. You embarrassed yourselves. I simply made sure everyone saw it." Dad eventually glanced up, his eyes weary and sunken. "We were desperate," he mumbled. "I lost everything, Neva. Investments and savings were gone. The inheritance was all we had left. I just needed time." I didn't feel angry anymore, only disdain. "So you ruined Grandpa's reputation for money. You caused him to die under the impression that I had abandoned him. You caused Grandma to question her sanity. So, you want sympathy?" He did not react. Mom attempted to reach out and touch my arm, but I stepped back. "You made me the villain in Grandpa's story," I said. "Now live with it." They departed in silence. Madison did not even glance at me. The news traveled quicker than anyone imagined. Court papers are public, and local journalists like stories of family fortunes gone awry. Within days, stories appeared. Couple found falsifying medical documents in state dispute. Local family accused of lying to inherit engineer's legacy. Their formerly immaculate reputation was ruined overnight. Dad lost his consultancy clients. Mom's charity board removed her name off their website. Madison, who managed a small event planning company, began losing sponsors and clients. Nobody wants to work with people who were known as frauds. Grandma saw it as a sign of closure. She went to the final hearing with her head held high, wearing Grandpa's old watch. When the judge read the verdict, she didn't say anything, but nodded and grabbed my hand. Afterward, we met with Mr. Bennett to execute the asset transfer. He gave me a folder. "The Innovation Center is officially yours now," remarked the administrator. "Everything Henry built, patents, land, research rights, all under your name." It did not feel like triumph. It felt like duty. Over the following 3 months, I dedicated myself to restoring the Henry Cole Innovation Center. The place was full of promise, but it had been basically inactive since Grandpa's health deteriorated. I assembled a small team of engineers, students, and a few local farmers who had known Grandpa for years. We began rebuilding his older designs, modernizing the solar irrigation system, and automating the water recycling devices. Every blueprint I touched made me think of his voice. "Engineering with dirt, Neva. That's all it is." Grandma would come once a week and watch us work from the shaded porch while drinking tea. "He'd be proud of this," she'd remark every time, as if it were a reality rather than a source of comfort. By spring, the Innovation Center had teamed with 3 agricultural institutions to provide research funds. It was no longer merely a workshop, it had regained life. Meanwhile, my folks vanished off the local radar. The house they owned went up for sale. They were said to have relocated into a modest apartment outside of town. Madison attempted to recreate herself online, posting encouraging quotes about family forgiveness and moving on, but no one bought it. Grandma made no secret of her position. During a local interview on the center's reopening, a reporter inquired if she intended to reconcile with the family. She stared straight at the camera and answered, "No, some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt." 8 months later, I relocated Grandma to a new house near the Innovation Center, a peaceful, bright space with large windows overlooking the hills. Her former house was too full of memories, both positive and negative. She decided to sell the old ranch house, claiming it was time to let go of walls that had heard far too many falsehoods. She grinned as she went through the door. Feels lighter here," she added. "Yeah," I responded. No ghosts allowed. For the first time, everything felt perfect. No phone calls, no lies, and no weight from individuals who claimed to love us only when it benefited them. That night, when the sun set, I wandered outside the center. The workshop lights gleamed warmly through the windows, and buzzing machinery within continued what Grandpa had begun. Legacy was not about money. It was not about inheritance, vengeance, or even victory. It was about what remained after the falsehoods. Standing there, I recognized something simple. I didn't just inherit what Grandpa constructed. I inherited the reason he constructed it. 3 months of quiet. That's how long they waited before trying something new. I was in the Innovation Center when a coworker showed me a Facebook post. It was my mother's face, the same trained grin and concerned tone she used when lying through her teeth. The caption stated, "Our daughter took everything from us. Please help us keep Grandma Evelyn safe from manipulation and mistreatment." A link to a GoFundMe page was attached. The description said that the money would go toward Grandma's care, yet the payment account was in my father's name. They also utilized old images of Grandma from before Grandpa died, making her appear feeble and bewildered. Within a few hours, people began spreading it. Comments flooded in from distant relatives, church pals, and longtime neighbors. "How awful," one exclaimed. "Can't believe Neva would do that." I didn't respond. I knew better. Arguing with liars online only helps them. But Grandma noticed it that night. She was browsing through her iPad in her room when I heard her say, "You've got to be kidding me." She invited me in, showed me the page, and added, "They've really lost it." She gazed at the screen for a long time, her jaw tightening. "They think I'm some prop for their pity show," she finally said. Then she put her tea down. "Okay, they want attention. Let's give them some." The next morning, Grandma requested me to place her phone on a little tripod. There was no script or elaborate lighting, just her sitting on the porch with the wind in her hair. She took a big breath, looked directly at the camera, and stated, "My name is Evelyn Cole. I am not sick. I am not confused, and I am surely not being duped. My son and his wife have lied to you. The GoFundMe they created is not for my benefit. It's for their greed." She didn't raise her voice once, remaining calm, steady, and almost surgical. "They falsified my husband's medical documents. They attempted to grab what was not theirs. They are now seeking passers-by for compassion. If you gave, request a refund. Do not allow fraudsters to profit from family falsehoods." She finished with a single sentence that hit harder than anything else. "My granddaughter did not take the money. She has earned our faith. That's something my son never accomplished." She stared at me after pushing the upload button. That should do it. Within hours, it detonated. Her video traveled quicker via local organizations than their GoFundMe campaign did. People left comments such as, "This is the real Grandma. Can't believe they lied about her." By that evening, GoFundMe donations had dwindled to nothing. The comment area became a battleground. Dozens more people requested refunds, naming GoFundMe's fraud department. A local reporter even covered the story. Elderly woman exposes family's fake fundraiser in viral video. By the next morning, the campaign was permanently shut down. The family's page disappeared, but screenshots remained elsewhere. Madison attempted damage management by releasing a statement that Grandma was being influenced by outsiders, but this simply made matters worse. Someone uploaded a video showing her ranting at a donor in public, claiming that this was going to cure things. It went viral on TikTok. When the dust had settled, Grandma sat back on the porch to watch the sunset. "You didn't even have to say a word," she replied, drinking her tea. "They handled their own downfall." I grinned. "You're getting good at this." She giggled quietly. "Maybe a little late in life, but better late than never." For the first time, the resulting quiet was light. It was serene. A week later, I strolled into the lab, which was now humming with new interns and projects. The Innovation Center was growing, thanks to donors who believed in something substantial. Madison and my parents preserved the Pine Hollow cabin, which was simple, honest, and just what Grandpa intended them to have. On my desk was Grandpa's antique pocket watch, its silver case catching the morning sun. I could almost hear him remark, "See, Neva, engineering requires dirt and patience." I did not win by shouting or yelling. I triumphed by being calm and allowing the truth to do its work. And this time, the entire world witnessed. Weeks passed, and the storm finally quieted. Grandma's video had done more than clear my name. It restored our family's truth. Neighbors began stopping by again, bringing pies, flowers, and quiet apologies. Some had believed the lies. Others had stayed silent out of fear. But now, with everything exposed, there was only respect left. The local newspaper printed a follow-up, "Cole Family Legacy Restored After Forgery Scandal." They quoted Grandma directly. "Integrity isn't something you inherit, it's something you prove." That line stayed with me for a long time. At the Innovation Center, our projects began drawing attention from across the state. Agricultural groups reached out for collaborations. Universities invited us to speak about sustainable farming and solar integration. The same workshop that once smelled of rust and oil now buzzed with innovation and laughter. Students filled the benches Grandpa once worked at, their notebooks covered in sketches and coffee rings. I'd walk by, hearing fragments of conversation that reminded me of him. Measure twice, cut once. Start small, think big. He was gone, yet his fingerprints were everywhere. Grandma became the quiet heart of the center. She'd sit by the window, sipping tea, watching us work, sometimes humming old hymns. Every so often she'd say, "Henry would have liked that," or "He used to talk about doing something like this." I'd smile, pretending to keep working while swallowing the lump in my throat. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, she called me over. "You've done it," she said softly. "You've turned his ideas into life again." I looked around at the lights, the laughter, the sound of machinery. "We did it," I corrected. "You kept the faith when nobody else did." She reached for my hand. "You remind me of him, you know. Same stubborn heart, same steady mind. Don't lose that." Time slipped by quietly. The following spring, the Innovation Center launched its first official product, a solar irrigation kit for small farms. We called it the Coal System, in honor of Grandpa. Demand came faster than we could fulfill. It wasn't just a business. It was redemption turned into something real, something good. During the launch event, local reporters showed up. One asked if we'd consider expanding to other states. Another asked how it felt to carry such a legacy. I smiled and said, "It feels like coming home." After the crowd thinned, I stood outside alone. The evening air smelled of grass and warm metal. Across the yard, the workshop door stood open. Inside, sunlight caught the edge of Grandpa's old blueprints pinned to the wall. For a moment, I could almost see him there, sleeves rolled up, eyes bright, explaining something about torque or water flow. "I hope I made you proud," I whispered. That night, Grandma and I ate dinner on the porch. The world felt simple again. No lawyers, no headlines, no lies, just quiet peace. She leaned back, gazing up at the stars. "You know," she said, "I used to worry that truth always came too late." "Maybe it doesn't," I said. "Maybe it just waits for the right person to speak it." She smiled faintly. "Then it waited for you." Months later, a letter arrived. It was from a local university offering to name a new scholarship after Henry and Evelyn Cole, a fund for students pursuing sustainable engineering. When I read it aloud, Grandma cried softly. "He'd never believe it," she said. "He never wanted fame." "It's not fame," I replied. "It's legacy, the kind that matters." She nodded, pressing the letter against her chest. A year passed. The ranch was sold, the debts were cleared, and peace became our new normal. Madison sent one email around Christmas, a short, hollow apology that said more about guilt than change. I didn't reply. Some things were better left unspoken. Mom and Dad never reached out again. The last I heard, they had moved to another state, away from the whispers, away from the truth. Maybe they found peace in their silence. Maybe not. But for once, it wasn't my problem to fix. One evening, I found Grandma asleep in her chair, the sunset brushing gold across her face. The house was quiet, except for the ticking of Grandpa's watch on the mantel. I sat beside her, listening to the same rhythm that had followed me through every storm, every lie, every victory. It sounded like time forgiving itself. I whispered, "Thank you," though I wasn't sure who it was for, her, Grandpa, or the version of myself that refused to give up. As I turned off the lights, the workshop glowed faintly through the trees. Inside, the machines hummed on timers, solar panels humming softly like a heartbeat in the dark. Legacy, I thought again, isn't what you leave behind. It's what still breathes when you're gone. And for the first time since that phone call years ago, I felt whole.